So it's an absolute delight to be here with you guys today. My name is Mohsin Memon, and I'll take a couple of minutes just to kind of set the stage, set the context a little bit for you guys, and also get to know you a little bit. This is going to be a highly interactive and participatory session where I'm going to get you involved. You're going to talk to me. We're going to talk to each other, and hopefully arrive at an understanding of how do we design games in a way that it can be used as a SaaS business tool or a SaaS business model. Yeah, so let me back up a little bit and tell you about my background and where I started out. So I've been playing games pretty much all my life. I love games. I have a background in film for the early part of my career, about 12 years. And then after that, I moved into learning and into facilitation of learning, so corporate learning, corporate training, and things like that, and subsequently realized that that a big part of what makes learning happen is interaction, where when you engage with the content, whatever it is that you're trying to learn, you draw insights from the learning that you've had. Right? And so my goal here is to maybe share a little bit of my story with my games that I've designed and turned into a SaaS product, which have now been used by companies like Coca-Cola, Uber, Microsoft, Motorola, and a range of other multinational organizations. So yeah, and on that note, I want to get a sense of my audience here. So we're going to do a little exercise, and we're going to make it a bit fun. So what I want you guys to do, for those of us who are entrepreneurs in the room, can I see you raise your hand, please? Entrepreneurs in the room, yeah? All right, so a few of us, not that many of us. Here's what I want you guys to do, and this is going to be a tip for you for later on when you are going to be doing some networking later on. So here's what you got to do. For all the entrepreneurs, please raise your hand again. All right, and this one I want you to do. Say, ah. Ah. Come on, I can't hear the entrepreneurs. Where's the entrepreneurial spirit? All right, 3, 2, 1 now. Ah. All right, and how about the game developers or game designers in the room? Can I see some hands? Okay. Okay, game developers, game designers, game producers also. Yeah, show me your hands. All right, and for you guys, we're gonna do ooh. Ready? 3, 2, 1 now. Ooh. Nice, nice. So we got entrepreneurs, we've got game designers in the room. And how about the rest of you who did not raise your hand for either of those two? Can I see your hands? The rest of you. You're gonna say E. All right, so we're getting some involvement here. I'm hearing some people. I know you guys are shy, and that's perfectly all right. We're going to move ahead and go a little bit into who this talk is for. Yeah, so this talk effectively is for entrepreneurs. It's for product owners who might be, SaaS product owners, if you will, and game producers. So you will benefit most from this talk, because what I'm going to go through is to tell you my story and my journey of how I've gone from running a consulting company to building applied games and then turning it into a SaaS product. For the last many years, I've been visiting IGDC back from when it was NGDC, and I would participate in the applied games program or the applied games track. And this is the first time we're talking in the production track because we are actually talking about business. We're talking about making money. We're talking about how do we use games in non-game contexts. All right? So let's move ahead and talk a little bit more about what we will cover in this talk, and then we'll go into my story and how I went into building this. So the key things we'll primarily cover here are the steps involved in building a SaaS business, so overarching steps involved, and where the games fit into that ecosystem, because it's important to understand the entire landscape before we can talk about a specific part of that landscape. And then what we'll not cover in this is how to build and scale SaaS businesses, because that's not what this event or this program is about. There are other tools, techniques that help you do that as well that I'm sure you'll find resources for. So one last thing that I want to mention, by the way, is that I believe that game developers and game designers are highly equipped to be able to become product owners and product designers. And here's why. When you think about designing a game, you have to zoom out a little bit and think about what makes a game successful, right? So what makes a game successful? Can I get a couple of responses here? What do you guys think? What makes anything that comes to your mind? What makes a game successful? The story. The story or the narrative? Okay. Any others? The mechanics of the game? Absolutely. Mechanics of the game. What else? Say that again. Visual style of the game. All right. I heard something else here. Replayability, right? What's the shelf life of your game? Is it going to last? Is it going to be a short-term play, one and done? Or is it going to be a long-term game? Can we play it over and over? Do I feel like playing it again? Any others? Engagement, yes. Player emotions, yes, that's another one. Can I say the one thing that trumps all things when it comes to what makes a game successful is how easy and intuitive it is to learn how to play the game. And this is because if people don't know how to play your game, they're not going to be able to play it. If they don't play it, they're not going to have fun. If they're not going to have fun, they're not going to tell their friends. If they're not going to tell their friends, no one's going to find out about your game. And so therefore, one of the most important things that game designers, and I'm sure you guys have thought about this already, and you design your games keeping in mind, how can a new user, new player that comes into the game environment learn how to play this game effectively and do wonderful things with the game. Many a times as game designers, we're surprised by what our players do within the game. They do things that we didn't even intend for them to do, right? So the reason why I believe that game designers, developers, producers are apt and the right people to be building products is because they have this in the back of their mind already. They have this thought of, we need to design the game or whatever it is that we're creating for it to be intuitive and interactive in a way that it teaches you how to play just by virtue of playing and interacting with the game itself, yeah? And so just moving the thing ahead, talking a little bit more about what might be another reason why I think game designers are valuable members of the ecosystem who could become product developers as well, is their ability to understand behavioral psychology and their ability to understand what is going to be the response of a player, expect the response of a player, and design keeping that in mind. So let's dive in and take a look at the typical steps that are involved in the process of creating a startup. So you're looking at, it starts with identifying the problem, creating a solution, building a team, developing the product, building a team, developing the content or the marketing, sales strategy, whatnot, and of course, staying agile, adaptable, and then scaling your business. So we're going to try and focus just on the initial part of this because we're talking about designing games, designing a SaaS business around games. So we're going to stay with the first three parts of this equation, and we're going to look at identifying a problem, creating a solution, and developing a product that ultimately leverages games in order to achieve of course, the business objective that you might have. So we're going to take each of these one by one, and the way that I'm going to be taking you through this journey is by telling you my story of how I went about identifying a problem, how I went about creating a solution, and then designing a product around the solution and the whole overall solving the problem. All right, so let's start with the first one, identifying the problem. So what was the problem statement that I was dealing with? I was facilitating and delivering training programs for large multinational companies for many years, and one of the challenges that I faced while doing that was that participants, my students and attendees, would often have trouble engaging in my programs. So, of course, I had to figure out ways to make the session interactive, make the experience interactive. And one thing led to another. I started thinking about how can we create a meaningful exchange for people to solve for whatever it is that they're trying to solve. I'll quote an example of working with a very large communication devices company. And in my time working with them, I remember the MD was talking to me and he said, you know, we've got all these great leaders and they're amazing. They do some really wonderful things, but they often compete against one another instead of collaborating. And this is often a challenge when teams grow large and there are silos within the team. It is a natural progression as the team grows. Of course, everybody means well. I don't think anybody comes in to the organization saying, today I'm going to screw things up. I think everybody comes in saying, today we're going to do a good job. Today we're going to do something incredible that will make an impact or a difference. So it's important for me to identify the root of the problem. I had to go back to the first principles and think about what is really the problem here. That maybe people are not listening to one another. Maybe people need to understand the consequence of their action. And by the way, that very idea, the consequence of your action, is something that games do really, really well. And they do it in a safe, controlled environment where you don't necessarily have to take that many risks in order to make decisions. In real life, when you're taking risks, there are real impacts. In a game world, there are smaller impacts which are contained within the confines of the game ecosystem. Yeah? So in our case, we had to identify what the root of the problem was. And it was that people were not communicating with one another. People were making decisions on their own without relaying that information back to the larger team and things like that. So I thought, what if we could create an experience? Because, mind you, I wasn't even thinking about a game at this point in time. I was just thinking about an experience which can surface this reality and let people see that they're making decisions, they're making choices which are counterproductive to the objective of the group. You guys with me so far? Yeah? Cool. So in doing that, we created the first interactive ecosystem on WhatsApp. And the flow of the events would be like, and this is back before there were reactions on WhatsApp. So this I'm talking about, 7, 8 years ago, when all you could do with WhatsApp was talk to one another and make groups. And that's really all you could do with the tool. So we made a group. We put 20 people in this group, and we got these people to follow certain sets of rules that they would operate by, which would ultimately influence and surface the realization that they are either misaligned or not talking to one another. And the way we did that was we put a narrative around it. We said, okay, this is a sci-fi ecosystem. You're traveling from Earth to Mars, and this is a non-hibernation trip, which means that you'll be awake the whole time. So you have to take actions. You have to do things in order to interact and play this game. And so, and what is it that you have to do? You have to do the various activities like garden or go for a run or do a meeting on some important element of the ecosystem, and so these would be the parameters based on which they would be judged. So one person would write something like running. Now, if other people give a thumbs up under the WhatsApp chat, then they would be joining that person to do the run. You guys with me so far? If somebody else put a different activity and the third person gave a thumbs up under that, they would then go go join the trip or go join the activity with the last person. So and the mechanics would result in the point system would be exponentially added based on how many people join that activity. So now what this requires you to do is for you to talk to each other and get a consensus on who's joining which activity and organize your activities before jumping right into it, yeah? So as you can see, what I've been able to do with this single example is I've been able to zoom out and look really at the actual behavior that we're trying to influence and then build the mechanic or build the game ecosystem around that. So the game itself supports the behavior that you want to see as an outcome from this. And this is going to make a lot more sense when we look at this, as we move ahead and look at this from a perspective of how do we apply this idea in other contexts. So we're going to look at examples of retail or of aviation and other industries to sort of draw some parallels around how can we learn from what I've been able to do with this idea and apply it in other contexts as well. So it starts with identifying the problem. And I've been able to do this with a number of game ecosystems. And as a result of this, been able to create 2 SaaS products that are built around a game environment. So the first thing we've got to do is identify the problem. And in doing that, what kind of questions should we be asking and answering while identifying the problem? So I want to open this question up to the room. I've got some answers. Earlier, this slide was a list of questions that I had already drafted, but I thought that it would be better to get you guys to be involved in the process of, identifying what could be some questions that we should be asking and answering while identifying the problem. So curious to know what you guys think. Anybody in the room? Any thoughts? Yeah? Can we get a mic there, please? And one there as well.
I want to add as well.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I would be asking, what's the purpose of it? Like, why do you want to do it?
Why do you want to do it?
If there is a problem.
What's the purpose?
Yes, what's the purpose?
Yeah. Okay, so in the process of identifying the problem itself, what is the purpose or what is the issue that we're facing? What are we trying to solve for? I think you had a point as well, right? Can we get a mic to this young lady here?
No.
Hi, Mohsin. Big fan of your work for IGDC days.
Thank you.
So yeah, going back to the basics of who, what, why, and also where. These 4 I would push.
Fantastic. Yeah. Who, what, why, when, where. Who are we solving the problem for? That informs your target audience, your ICP, if you will, from a SaaS angle, your ideal customer profile, and the more you build your customer profile, the closer you are to understanding what is their problem, when do they face these problems, what environment are they in when they're facing this problem, are they physically present in an office, are they at home, things along those lines. And these are great questions, by the way. If you just look at the who, what, when, where, why, that should pretty much give you a lot of clarity. Any others?
Actually, they covered my...
Go for it. No, say it. I'm looking forward to hearing it. What's it?
So, I was also thinking that a strong why is necessary to solve a problem. Actually, why exactly we are solving a problem? Is this problem actually a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. And many SaaS products are built around things that are not problems, non-problems, right? And we know enough of that. There was an investor here just now talking about some of that, and we know about that from also firsthand experience, because we come across products and tools and technology that we're like, what do I do with this? Anyway, so I'm just going to uninstall it. Moving the conversation ahead to creating a solution. So in the process of creating the solution, my goal was to build the interaction that actually solves for the real problem. And I gave a couple of examples of what I've been able to do with the game that I told you about, the traveling from Earth to Mars. That one's called Thrive. I built another game called Evive, which is actually a SaaS product now being used by facilitators around the world to deliver learning experiences in an interactive sort of way. I'm curious to know, what kind of questions should we be asking and answering while creating the solution? Any ideas around that? Yeah? One sec, we'll get the mic to you.
It's same as how a game is adapted, right? The learning curve.
Yeah.
Will it be, like as a creator or as a developer, you know the tech side. But the audience, is it that tech savvy to use this? So that is, I think, one of the biggest thing that you should look at.
Yeah. So will the audience that I'm designing the game for be able to use the game or be able to interact with the game that I'm creating? Yeah, because you create a first-person shooter, because in this case, the case that I gave you, we've got participants that age range between, in that case specifically, between 45 and 65, right? They're not going to play a first-person shooter game, right?
What kind of solution that I can give differently? If there is any solution already in the market, what different I can give?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. Considering that you're building a SaaS business around games, meaning leveraging a game for solving a real problem in the real world, the market is wide open. So the chances of somebody else doing it are fairly low at this point in time. And secondly, because it's a game, it also allows a wide range of creative expression for you to be able to design it and create it in whatever way it is that you want. That becomes your USP, if you will. Yeah, but great point. Thank you. Any others? What kind of questions should we be asking?
I have one.
Yeah.
If there's a problem you really care about, how are you solving it today?
Yes, thank you. That's so good. We need to know how are we solving this problem right now? Because with that perspective, we're going to be able to say, all right, here's a replacement of how you're solving the problem in the format of a game. Think of games. I need you to change the way we look at games. Think about them as any other media. You've got media like books. You've got media like audio and video, right? Game is just another media which combines many of these other smaller pieces together to create a larger parent set, if you will, of the media. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, adding to his question, we have the problem. What is the first step we need to take now if we really wish to start it up?
Yeah, what is the first step that we need to take in order to solve the problem? Yeah, agreed, good one.
No, just a question.
You're asking me?
Yeah. So the question is, we have the problem statement ready.
Okay.
We have the blueprint ready also. The idea is we need to take the first step, but again, how do you mind map when you start developing a game for a user audience or for an audience which is not really that tech savvy?
Great question. I want to come back to this in the Q&A section because I want to go with the flow that I've kind of designed. And we will come back to you with that question. It's a great question, by the way. Yes. Anybody else in the room? Yeah?
What's the budget?
Yes. What's the budget? How much money do you have? How much money are you spending? Who's going to do it? All these kinds of things, right? These are important questions to answer. But essentially, what we're really answering through this part of this, creating the solution, is what will the game look like? What will the game be? And to check to see is the game solving the problem that we intended for it to solve. And if it does, see, you're not going to go straight into scaling a business or turning it into a SaaS model or a SaaS business ecosystem until you have your core product in place. Many of the SaaS businesses have a business model and many nuts and bolts of different kinds of mechanics or different kinds of tools features that they're using to solve a customer's problem without a core value proposition. So for those of us who are looking to build a SaaS business around games, games become your core at the center of your equation of your business model entirely. Yeah.
Sorry, one more question again. How do you measure it? That is it really solving that problem or not?
Great question. We need that. We
I
need
mean,
that.
if you do not, many times we see that games have been used as a measure of entertainment or something else.
Yeah.
But again, if you take it to the wider audience or a corporate world, probably, we need to measure it right at the ground level. So how do we do that? Again, simple question.
That's a great question. And let me also say, one that is not easily answered, because at least I can speak from the learning ecosystem. The holy grail of learning is ROI, which is what is my return on investment for a learning experience. If a director or a CFO is approving a budget of $500,000 to buy an LMS or subscribe to an LMS, a learning management system, then they need to know what's going to be the ROI. What do we gain in terms of either tangible or intangible results from that expense? So yeah, it is definitely an important thing to consider as well. So moving the conversation ahead then, finally, now that you've identified the problem and then you've created a game solution around that problem, that core problem, you are now ready to design the product. Because all this time, you weren't actually designing the product. You were designing the core functionality that solves the problem in the form of a game. Yeah. And this is going to become a lot more tangible. It's going to make a lot more sense to you as we move slightly ahead and look at a little bit at some examples by answering the questions that you guys have just brought up through a few different lenses of industries and problem statements. So that's what it eventually comes down to, which is then how do we make it easy for people to access it? How do we make it scalable? How do we build something that fundamentally solves for the problem? And that's where we can add those additional features that the user might want after you've got your core value proposition in place. What kind of questions do you think we should be asking and answering while designing the product? Anything out there? While designing the product? Yes? I'm making the crew run quite a bit. They're going to do a half marathon by the time I'm done.
So
Yes.
actually I have a question.
Yes.
Like what flow should we take? Like are we coming from SaaS to a game or we are making a game to SaaS?
Great question. You know, I wish I had the answer for that because what I'm doing and what I'm working on is so new that for the journey for me was to think about SaaS while building a game to solve a problem. Does that make sense? Thinking about scaling in the back of your mind that this is going to no longer be just me facilitating a game experience for a group of 20 people and designing it, however, keeping those 20 people in mind, but when you come to the product level, you've got to think about it from a SaaS angle, once you've got the value proposition down in place.
Okay, so one more thing, like what percentage should we, like if we design right now with our perspectives, so naturally we put it to a different percentage, like 40% it will be game and 60% it will be a SaaS app, or the vice versa. But a new thing can become when we merge both of them, like something new, anything. So what approach should we take for that, to merge these different ideas?
This is a longer discussion. I can take that offline with you. After the session, we can have a one-on-one on this and I can share a bit
Thank you.
more. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to now move into, I'm being mindful of time as well. I've got another 10 minutes or so. So I want to move now into a free-flowing sort of ideation where we will take one problem statement. I think we really only have enough time for one of these. We're going to take one problem statement from, I've given some ideas for industries here, and we're going to take that problem, we're going to ideate on a game for that problem, and then we're going to think about how do we productize the game that we've created so that it can become a SaaS business. So we'll start with opening up the room for anybody who might want to start with giving us an industry name. So take a pick from the 4 that I've given here, or your own favorite industry of your choice. Anybody? Yeah? Yeah, just call it out. FinTech is one. Yeah.
You can take music learning, for example.
Say that again?
Music learning.
Music learning? Okay, learning how to play instruments.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So that's a learning industry, education or music industry, yes? High school education. Ooh, I like that. Very close to heart, actually, that one. Any others?
Automotive.
Automotive, yes. Industrial training. Wow, such great ones in the room. I wish, I had a poll to get the audience to weigh in on which one to do. But if you had to pick one, which one would it be? If I had to pick one, it would be high school education, because that's close to heart for me. But yeah, let's go with that. You know what? Let's go with that. So high school education is what we're trying to build into a SaaS product. Now, let's talk about the problem. What is the problem here? And anybody can say, by the way. Yes, you can also go ahead. Relevance of the education to real world and to what prepares an individual to get out of high school and be an effective either employee or go to the next level, tertiary education. Yeah? Okay, are you talking about customization of the learning experience or the learning itself?
I'm saying the customization of the pace of learning.
Pace
so
of
some
learning.
Students pick up fast, some students take time.
Okay, got it. So we've got pace, we've got relevance. What else?
Helping them to recognize their passion or their strong points.
Okay, helping them to recognize their passion and what they're good at naturally, natural affinity. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Applying, application, good one.
Adaptability to changing times.
Adaptability to changing times. So whatever it is that we're teaching should also evolve with the dynamic times that we live in.
And help education also evolve
Today.
accordingly.
Wow, that's a tall order. All of this is a tall order, but we're going to try. So we've got a problem in place, and the problem is that the learning is, in a nutshell, outdated, right? Or the education system is outdated, and we need to design a solution for doing this. So what do some solutions look like? What does a potential game solution to this problem look like? Or any, like 1-2 words, phrases as well, they work.
I went into the specifics. VR-based lab experience. Like you might not have all the chemicals in your labs, so you can make use of VR.
Okay, so VR is great as an immersive tool to get people to, learners and students to feel immersed in the process. There's a challenge though, and this is what I meant when you were asking that question. What do we have to think about from both angles? We have to think about scaling while we're thinking about designing the product as well. We go the VR route, you're thinking about looking at hardware costs, right? And you're thinking about how do we need to make those hardware pieces available, and that's going to be a limitation in scaling. So unfortunately, great idea, but would not work in this context.
So one more.
She's got a follow-up. Say that, go ahead.
AR would, because it just uses a smartphone.
Smartphone, AR works,
So
yes.
one more point on that point can be that industry experiences, if they can be given as, once that guy learns that education and goes into the industry, if the point on relevance, that they can get that experience, what we get in internships, if they can get something in the game format. That can be one point.
Yeah, so a practical opportunity, and this solves for that gentleman's question point as well, which is an opportunity to apply what it is that you're learning in the environment itself, right? Yeah. We're going to need multiple mics, I think. Here.
Yep. Just adding to his answer, I would also add that we can introduce problem-solving techniques with like the gamification, creating puzzles around the lessons that you learn, and it'll be a creative way to understand the problem and then solve it, which will add to your practicality.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not going into the details of making a game because you guys know how to do that already. You know, once we identify what problem we're solving and what does the solution look like, we're able to build a narrative around it, we're able to add mechanics to it, we're able to link those mechanics to the learning outcomes so that the right behaviors surface, and so that we can test it for the validation of, is it actually solving the problem?
Yeah, so you take a school subject topic, find a real world application of that subject topic and bring that into a gaming environment.
Yes.
For example, like topography maps, a very important topic being taught here in schools. And you can use topography maps in first-person shooter games. So integrate that into the first-person shooter game and there's a learning there. So you take the real world application into gaming environment.
Yep. So let's say now we've come to a point where we've created a game, and the game, we've tested it, we've validated it as well, and we've seen that it does solve for the problem. We're going to go a little micro and go to what you're saying, which is to take a single subject and say, let's say something like geography, and we're going to gamify it. We build a game around it for someone to travel. How many of us here ever played Where in the World is Carmen? Yeah, you guys know. Some of you have played the game. Right? In the US, this is a really, really popular game, back in the day, at least when I was in school. And I learned so much about countries and spaces and people and cultures in that process. So I can just imagine something like that being expanded into an entire classroom period, if you will. Now, how do we take this idea, this concept, or this solution that we've designed that actually solves the problem and build a SaaS business around it? What kind of questions? You remember the questions that we were asking? What do we need to do
Actually,
there?
I have a solution. We have to create a strong LMS or an EMS in a backend so that it's flexible for whoever is updating the learning content, and it's adaptable also.
Okay, yeah, a different solution, but yeah, works as well. Okay, any others? How do we build a SaaS business around this? All right, that's my expertise, so I'll give the answer to that. So the way we would build, you've got the game in place already. Now it's time to make it scalable by bringing it into your cloud services, whatever you've got, things like UGS that you're working with, or whether you're doing Unity or you're using AWS. You bring it into those environments, allowing for it to have a low cost per session, or a low cost per user, and build a model around it. Now, we can sell this solution, whatever it is that we create, with the additional features to our schools, colleges, and other institutions. And as a result, you've got a SaaS business. Does that make sense? Yes? Say that again? Absolutely, and that's a core part of running a SaaS company or a SaaS business, where it has cross-selling. It sells other features or other upselling tools within the environment that you've created. And that's where you now bring in the additional features that might be missing from your core value proposition. I'm being told that my time is up. Thank you very much, guys. This has been wonderful. If you have any more questions you want to talk to me about either anything that I've talked about, career opportunities, investments, please get in touch with me. Thank you very much. This has been wonderful.